Hello everyone, tonight we are sitting in a room where the rocking chair creaks just once at the stroke of the full moon. No matter who is in the house, no matter if the room is locked, abandoned, or halfway buried under sand. And tonight, well, tonight is a full moon. You are here. You probably won't survive. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. It starts with the sound of the chair, but only if you're lying down. Only if your body is at rest. That's the rule, apparently. The creak doesn't come when you're alert or standing up. That would be too helpful. No, it waits for the exact moment when your breathing starts to soften, when your muscles begin to loosen just enough for sleep to consider visiting. You are in a small stone house with its back against the limestone cliff, the kind of house that shouldn't have survived this long. The walls are crooked and rounded at the edges like something trying to forget its corners. Wind has carved words into the mortar, though no one has ever managed to read them. The chair is in the far corner position, so it always faces away from you no matter where you stand. The old woman who once lived here swore it turned itself. Not with a scrape or a shuffle, just a soft correction the way a flower turns toward the moonlight when no one's looking. She also swore she never bought the chair, that it had already been here when her family moved in. Her grandmother had warned her, she said, "Don't oil it, don't sit in it, and whatever you do, don't lie down during a full moon." The usual grandmotherly advice right alongside never salt the bread before the first bite and don't name your shadows. You've heard these kinds of warnings before. They usually turn into old jokes or childhood dares, except this time it creaks. A single splintered sound like regret through old bones, and then silence. Not a second creak, not a whisper. That's the worst part. It's not an endless haunting, it's a punctual one. You test it. Of course you do. You lie down at dusk and wait with one eye open. The wind hums in the chimney, the mice shuffle in the wall. But no sound comes from the corner. Not until you blink. That microsecond surrender is when the creak comes. You sit up instantly. The chair is still, but now it's facing you. It's always facing you now. A few researchers have visited this place before you. One of them, a folklorist from Hungary, claimed the chair resembled early Neolithic cradles excavated near Lake Balaton. Something about the arc of the legs, the pitch of the back. She thought it might have been carved from fossilized driftwood, perhaps even reused from a ritual boat frame. Boats often ended up as beds, she said, in both life and death, especially for children. Some researchers still argue whether this cradle boat lineage is real or just a poetic coincidence. There are no carvings, no markings, just smooth wood worn down by too much waiting or rocking. You run your hand over it the next morning. The wood is cold, almost wet, but the air is dry. There are 5 deep indentations in the seat, not the kind a human would leave, not round or blunt. Claw-like, sharp, but only 5. Of course, you count them again. Still 5. In old Moldovan ghost tales, there's a spirit known as Luna Muma, the Moon Mother, who rocks invisible children at night and steals the names of real ones. If you hear a chair creaking under moonlight, the story goes you must whisper your own name backward before dawn, or she'll keep it for herself. Then you'll sleepwalk forever, always trying to find the chair again. You try saying your name backward for fun. It sounds like a wet sneeze. You laugh. That's your first mistake. That night it creaks twice. You were still awake. You don't know what that means. You decide not to sleep in the house again. But when you stay in the tent outside, you hear it anyway. Not the creak itself, but the echo of it, delayed and muffled, as if the sound had traveled through someone else's dream to reach you. The third night, your name is missing from your journal. Just gone. The entry is there. The handwriting is yours. The ink is yours. The temperature note, the field sketch is all intact, but where you signed it blank. No smudge, no scratch out, just the ghost of a name that no longer exists on the page. It's probably nothing. You tell yourself that twice. You don't sleep. And then 1 hour before dawn, a whisper, creak. This time you weren't even lying down. You were just thinking about sleep. That's your second mistake. You turn the chair around. You face it toward the wall. You pile your pack on top of it. You wedge it in place with a stool, a stone, a broom. You whisper your name forward and backward like a stubborn spell. You even apologize out loud because at this point you feel like that might be necessary. And still, it creaks. The full moon is at its peak now. A perfect white eye in the sky. Unblinking, watching. The chair creaks one last time. Not a whisper follows. But you notice something else. The stone floor beneath the chair is slowly turning pale. You kneel down, you press your fingers to it. The stone isn't glowing, but it is cooler and smoother, almost like bone. You check your journal again. Your name is gone again. So is the date. And the last thing you wrote, the last word is rocking. Just that. Nothing more. In the morning, you try to laugh. You even write down a list of all the logical explanations. Sunlight bleaching, ink drying unevenly, stress-induced memory lapses. That one's your favorite. Stress-induced name disappearance. You imagine the diagnosis printed on a slip of hospital paper. Patient reports memory absence limited to self-designation following lunar creaking phenomena. You are absolutely fine, perfectly reasonable. You even say it out loud just to test how it feels. But when you say your name, your mouth stops halfway. Not like forgetting. More like something blocks the sound as if your tongue has agreed to lie. You don't try again for several hours. Instead, you leave the house, walk the ridgeline, and study the valley below. There's an old olive grove in the shape of a crescent, and just beyond that, a long row of stones that archaeologists once mistook for an aqueduct. But it doesn't carry water. It carries shadow. No matter the sun's position, the shadows fall inward, toward the chair. Not toward the house, just the chair. That's when it occurs to you the chair was never in the house. The house was built around the chair, or maybe it built itself. You shake off the thought. Back inside the chair hasn't moved, but the broom is broken in half, snapped cleanly across the middle like a wishbone pulled too hard. You didn't hear it happen. Some scholars argue that chairs, especially rocking chairs, are anthropological stand-ins for the absent body. There's one early Bronze Age burial site in Armenia where a small stool was found placed beside every single grave, even the ones without bones. No carvings, no markings, just quiet wooden witnesses. Some believe the stools were meant for the dead to return and sit upon during moonlit ceremonies. Others think they were offerings to those who never arrived. Lost wanderers. Souls that overslept. One folklorist referred to them as ghost stools. You always liked that phrase, but this chair, this one is different. It has expectation. Not the kind of object you sit in, but the kind that waits for someone to earn the right to sit. You don't sit, of course. You're not foolish. Not yet. That evening, you eat in silence. Bread and olives. A tin of sardines. You stare at the chair with every bite. You make jokes aloud to ease the dread. If you're going to haunt me, at least wait until I've digested. I hope you like salt with your echoes. I'm not sharing my olives. The chair does not respond. But the walls do. That night, faint grooves appear in the plaster. Parallel lines, rocking lines, but too many. 4, 5, 7. Like multiple chairs were rocking in unison. Or like one chair was remembering too many nights at once. You touch the grooves. They're not just surface scratches. They go deep. As if something heavy rocked with great insistence. Maybe it was trying to match the moon's pulse. In ancient Babylonian lunar tablets, phases of the moon were believed to carry personality. Waxing moons were tricksters. Full moons were judges, and waning moons were thieves. One entry describes a cursed throne that creaked whenever the moon judged a liar. It's unclear what constituted a lie, though. Some scholars think it referred to unspoken thoughts. Others believe it meant dreams not acted upon. You haven't had a dream since the creaking began. You haven't even blinked near the chair. And yet the floor is getting paler. By morning, it's the size of a small rug, bone smooth, slightly domed. You pour water on it. It beads instantly, doesn't soak in. Not stone anymore. Not quite. Like something underneath is stretching upward, wanting to surface. You leave the house again. Hike. You check your reflection in a puddle and notice something new. Your left eye is paler than the right. Almost milky. You blink. It clears. Or maybe the water shimmered. You wonder if your name is still in your passport. You don't check. That night, no moon. Cloud cover thick as wool. You decide to test it. You lie down, fully clothed, flashlight in hand. No creak. You sit up, still nothing. You start to drift off, not fully, just enough to let your shoulders loosen. And then, not a creak, a whisper, not a word, a breath, just behind your ear. You jump up, flashlight on. Nothing. You search the whole house, empty. The chair is still in the corner. But now, it rocks once, all on its own. You point the flashlight straight at it. The beam flickers. You step forward. The air in front of it feels thicker, like a curtain, or maybe like underwater space, cool, resistant. You lean in, just close enough to inspect the base. You see something beneath the seat. A symbol, carved in that same bone-pale surface. A spiral, just one. No more than an inch across. It's faint, not new, not fresh. A memory. And when you touch it, you remember something, but it's not yours. Not from this life. Not from any life you've known. A rocking. An ancient hunger. A lullaby sung in a language no one writes down. And the feeling of waiting. You stumble back. The chair stops. The spiral is gone. But now there are two chairs in the room. Or the one chair with two shadows. You cannot tell which is worse. You wake up on the floor. Not gently. The kind of waking that feels like being dropped from a dream you didn't agree to leave. The air is colder. The stone is softer. For a moment you think you're lying on the chair seat, but no, the bone-smooth floor has expanded again. It now reaches the edges of the room, beneath shelves, beneath the fire pit, beneath the walls. Only the chair remains untouched by it. The floor curves gently around its legs like water refusing to wet a bone. You stand. Check your limbs. All here. You check the mirror shard you keep in your kit. Your face is there mostly. Your eyes, however, seem unfamiliar, like they've been practicing emotions you haven't caught up to yet. You write your name in the journal again. You press the pen hard, dragging each letter into the paper with ceremonial force. You close the book. Count to 10. Open it. Your name is still there, but now it's written twice. Once by you. Once beneath it in smaller, thinner handwriting that curves slightly to the left. You do not remember ever writing like that. You stare at the second version. The letters curl like they're unsure they want to be seen. That's your third mistake. The next full moon is 3 nights away. You try to leave, but the valley doesn't allow it. The trail vanishes. Your compass spins. You find your way back only by accident, by following the sound of something gently rocking in the windless dark. A folklorist once wrote that some ghost stories aren't told, they're found. Dug out of bone caves or carved in the gaps between standing stones. She spoke of ritual furniture, especially chairs that belonged to vanished midwives, bone menders, or night watchers. One such chair was described in a 13th century Welsh account as being stitched from driftwood, and mother's warnings placed at the threshold of a cairn and never allowed to rock forward, only back. That's what haunts you now. The direction. You realize the chair never rocks forward, only back, a slow tilt into memory. You test it. You nudge the chair gently. It does not move forward. You push harder. It doesn't creak. But the air around it pulses like breath, drawn in, not exhaled. You step back. The chair rocks once, backward. You didn't touch it that time. You begin recording sounds at night. Just check. You leave the mic near the chair facing the white floor. The next morning, the recording is blank. No creaks, no static, no wind, just silence. Except for 1 second. At 03:06:14, a voice, faint, mouth against the mic. It says simply, "Still here." You check the journal. Your name is gone again. But now, at the bottom of the page, the second handwriting has written "Rock with me." You don't remember what your own voice sounds like anymore. The third night just before the full moon, you try to photograph the chair. The lens fogs, not from temperature, from breath, on the inside of the lens. You clean it. Try again. The chair disappears in the image. Not blurred, not obscured. Simply not there. You take one photo every hour until midnight. Nothing. The chair is absent in every frame. But at 2:06 a.m., one photo finally shows something. The chair is visible, and you are in it. You were never in the room. You were outside, watching the moon. But the photo, your body slumped, your head back, your mouth slightly open, like you're listening for something inside yourself. You don't remember hearing anything, but you do remember rocking. The moment flashes back so brief it might have been imagined, but it's vivid. The chair beneath you, cold, heavy. The sensation of being rocked by someone else, not a haunting, a lullaby. That's when you notice your fingernails have changed, grown longer, pale, curved under. Not human. You clip them, bury the clippings outside, whisper an apology into the soil. That's your fourth mistake. When the full moon finally rises, you try a new plan. You stay awake, completely. You tie thread around your fingers so if you nod off, the slack will slip and pull. You pace. You recite every fact you know about lunar cycles and Bronze Age furniture. You whisper jokes to keep yourself steady. If I sit in the chair and hum nursery rhymes, does it tuck me in or eat me? Rock, paper, possession. If I see my own ghost, I'm charging it rent. The chair stays still until 3:06 again. Then it rocks, but not once, twice, 3 times. And the shadows multiply. You back toward the door. You feel the floor changing beneath your feet. The bone-smooth texture now rises like tide water. It's not just a floor anymore, it's a surface with memory. With pressure. Like something beneath it wants to come up for air. You don't wait for it. You run out of the house into the dark. You don't stop until the sky softens to indigo and the olive trees begin to shimmer with dew. You sleep outside, mouth open, name forgotten. When you wake, your back aches. You feel bruises, shaped like hands, small ones, one on each shoulder. You open your journal to write. The words are already there. Your hand didn't move. It simply says, "We'll rock again tonight." You stop writing in the journal after that. You begin speaking out loud again just to hear your voice to anchor yourself to something human. You recite fragments of memories, grocery lists, names of teachers you had in school, all the capitals of countries you can remember. You do it to keep the words in your mouth, to remind your tongue how to belong to a body. But it's harder now, like there's a fog in your throat. And sometimes you get the strange sensation that you're not alone in your own mouth, that someone else is listening from inside waiting to interrupt. You don't test that theory. You light candles in the house. You walk circles around the chair, muttering the names of stars. Some real, some made up. Anything to confuse it. But it doesn't flinch. It waits as it always does. You read a passage once etched into an obsidian tablet dug up in Anatolia that described a burial where no body was found, only a circle of soot, 5 tooth-shaped stones, and a seated wooden chair. The chair's legs were burned but not broken. The archaeologist noted, "We believe the object was placed as a witness, not a participant." But another scholar added a handwritten footnote, or perhaps it was the participant. Chairs remember things we no longer want to sit through. The 5th night you stop pretending. You sleep in the tent far from the house near the crescent-shaped grove. But in the dream, you're back in the room. And you're not dreaming alone. The chair is already moving. And you're in it, cradled. Not seated, held. There's something behind you just beyond sensation. A presence with no temperature, no breath. It rocks you. Not like a mother, more like a rhythm, a ritual, a pendulum swinging across memory, and you're humming. A tune you don't know but your throat does. Soft and low like the sea filtering through ribs. You wake up with that hum still in your mouth. The ground beneath your tent is smooth. Not all of it, just a patch the size of the chair. You pack everything. You hike. You walk for hours in any direction the sky allows, but you always return. By nightfall, the house is waiting, and so is the chair. Inside the room has changed. The second shadow is taller now. The spiral has returned, carved not in the floor but above the hearth. And there's something new, a set of small footprints leading from the chair to the door. Bare but sharp-toed. 5 toes. Deep impressions. You place your foot beside them. They are smaller than yours, but they fit too well. That's your 5th mistake. You hear no creak that night. No whisper, no breath, only the hum. Yours, echoed. And something else, laughter. Brief, young, not mocking, but patient. Like a child waiting for you to catch up. You step outside for air. And when you look up at the moon, you notice the spiral there too faint within the craters, turning slowly, or perhaps just pulsing in your vision. You close your eyes. When you open them again, you're seated. In the chair. You didn't move. You don't remember moving. The room is darker. The corners have stretched. You smell salt and bone dust and the faint sweetness of something rotten but beloved. And then you feel it. A hand on your shoulder, small, light. Another joins it, and another, and another. 5. The same number as the claw marks in the seat. You are still. You do not speak. They rock you back. Once, twice. A rhythm forms. The spiral deepens. And then all at once, you feel the memory. Not yours. Not human. A time when the world rocked back and forth on tides of dark. Before sun. Before voice. Only bone. Only breath. Only waiting. You open your mouth, and your name does not come out. Something older does. You whisper it. The room listens. The chair creaks. Only once. And the moon creaks back. The morning after the creak, you expect silence. But the house is no longer quiet. There's no wind, no voices, not even the scrape of animals in the walls. But something moves in every corner, slow, purposeful stillness like breath inside a stone. The chair is empty, and yet it rocks. Not visibly, but the floor beneath it carries the motion. A rhythm low and steady pulses outward through the bone-smooth surface like ripples beneath skin. You step back, but the sensation follows. No matter where you stand, it feels as if the room is subtly tilting back, and back, and back. Always backward. That's the rule now. Backward to remember. Backward to belong. You light a candle, though you don't recall holding one. The wick crackles, then settles into a deep orange flame. It casts shadows that don't obey the shape of the room. One looks like a mother. One looks like a child. One looks like you, but seated in the chair, eyes closed, hands folded like someone waiting to be named. You whisper your name aloud. It sounds wrong, like trying to breathe underwater. You try again, slower this time. It catches halfway through, dissolving into a hum. The same lullaby, the same rhythm. You notice your journal sitting open now, though you hadn't touched it. The last page is blank. But beneath it, something faint begins to emerge, as if ink is rising up from the page rather than sinking in. You watch as each letter unfolds in reverse. Thank you for rocking. You touch the page. It's warm. Then you notice the footprints again. This time they lead toward the chair. And this time, they're yours. Each step is exact, spaced like your stride. The 5th toe curves just like the one you broke in childhood, but they're smaller than your current feet, like an echo of you before you were yourself. And beside them, fainter, lighter, another set, slightly different, a child's, but not quite human. In certain prehistoric caves across France, children's footprints are found deep in unlit chambers. Paleontologists call them ghost prints, preserved in hardened clay for tens of thousands of years. One child walked in circles around a fire pit. Another crawled beside a wolf. And in one cave, a small trail led directly to a raised rock, where no adult prints followed. Some researchers argue the prints were part of a ritual. Others say they were nothing more than play. But some folklorists believe those caves weren't for the living at all, that the children went there not to explore but to listen. to sit in places carved by ancient sound, where stone hums beneath the earth breath and echoes carry names backwards through time. You think of this now standing in the house that breathes through limestone where no child ever lived, and yet there are lullabies in the walls. You sit down in the chair. It's not cold this time. It fits your spine. It remembers you. You let your arms rest on the worn wood. You close your eyes. And the rocking begins not by your muscles, not by your will, by the room, by the floor, by something deep beneath. Back and forth, back and forth. It is not sleep, not exactly, but it is a form of rest. You hum just once, and from somewhere everywhere comes the reply, 100 tiny voices, each rocking, each humming, some above you, some behind the walls, some inside the hollows of your bones. The lullaby weaves through the air like threads of ash. You realize it now. You weren't haunted by the chair. You were invited, not as a guest, not as a victim, but as a final piece. The chair doesn't just creak at the full moon. It counts. It records. It rocks until a name becomes memory and memory becomes bone. You do not stand up. You no longer need to. The floor whitens completely. The shadows fold into the wall, and the spiral carved above the hearth begins to spin. Not outward, not inward, just in place. A still motion, the kind you find in old music, or very young bones. Outside, the wind begins again. It carries a hum, a lullaby, and somewhere beneath the olive trees, a new chair waits, empty for now.